Welcome to Crossroads and Cauldrons. We are two witches with jobs, families, and busy lives just like you. We talk about weaving the web of community, practicing magic, and life in the Deep South. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Crossroads and Cauldrons. I'm Selena, and I have a special guest with me today, and she is actually a returning guest. So if you have not listened to her first visit with us, do that because it was fabulous. But back with us today is Dawn Hunt, the Kitchen Witch. Hi, Dawn. How are you?
Hi. I'm so happy to be back.
I'm so happy you're here.
Thanks
we
for
can see
bringing me on again.
We can see your beautiful face this time.
Well, the last time we could see each other, but we weren't recording the video. So it was like a live you and me, but like no one else could see the fun things and the weird facial expressions. So yeah,
they lost out.
This is excellent.
I was so selfish before because I could see you and they could not. And I felt greedy about that.
And you are so beautiful. I almost forget how gorgeous you are, and then like there you are, and I'm like, oh my god, like your skin is perfect, your eyebrows are perfect, I know it's just a total love fest, and I have to thank you, Selena, because I had a series of people that I went on their podcast when my book came out last year, and it was like one right after the other. And you were sort of like the proverbial nail in the coffin. And you were like, you need to have your own podcast. And you were so like encouraging and supportive. Aww. And it's because of that now I have my own podcast. So like I am forever in your debt for that encouragement and like your staunch belief in my ability. Because really, I just don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And I'm just over here like, hey... That's how
you do it. That's how you do it. You wing it. That's my and you can ask my friends if they'll, answer the phone. You can ask my friends whenever they are looking for advice. 9 times out of 10, wing it. Like is my response or has been. Yeah. I'm nicer to my students than I am to my friends. But anyway, I'm glad you brought up a podcast because I wanted to ask you what you've been doing since you were here last. Last time, let me do a recap. I got to do a recap. Yeah. So last time you were here, you had just launched your very first, hugely popular book. You had written a couple of others, but they were not widely published. Is that correct?
Yeah, my first book was a self-published little collection of recipes called the Cucina Aurora Recipes for the Novice Kitchen Witch. And it was like a little spiral bound. I self-published it as this little tiny book, which is actually no longer in print. So if you have one of those, you're very special. And then Copper Cauldron picked me up for a book called Taste from the Temple, which was like a compendium of recipes and magic through the Temple of Witchcraft community. So I was really grateful to have that opportunity. But as you said, it wasn't super widely distributed. And then, last time I was here, I was just launching with Simon & Schuster for Kitchen Witch's Guide to Love and Romance.
And that book is so gorgeous. And I see it behind you on your shelf there. Can you give us a little...
This is my...
There it is.
It's really hard, and you probably talk to a lot of authors. Ooh, figs.
So beautiful.
You probably talk to a lot of authors who have been on your show, because your show is amazing, that have come out with books in the time of COVID. It's a very hard, very weird time to bring something like this into the world, because you can't interact with people out in the world with it. So there's all this media that you can do, and like, thank God for you, and people like you, so that people like me have a platform to bring our projects to the world. So thank you.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you about. Now, you had just come out, and we talked a little bit about some of the difficulty in not being, and this was like early COVID times. So you had talked a little bit about how almost disconnected disconnected you felt from your audience and trying to explore different avenues of connecting with people and especially with food being what your book is about. You know, people want that in their mouths, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, you can't do like samples and be like, here, taste my magic. So how has that been going for? Because you've had a recent shift in that. Yeah,
Well,
you've been able to do a couple of in-person signings.
A couple of things. I've done a couple of in-person signings, but they've all been like super duper local, super duper. Because I'm here in New England, and you know, as long as I feel like okay, if we can be outdoors and having masks, we're all fully vaccinated. My husband and I, and my team at Cucina Aurora, we're all fully vaccinated. But like, I still feel like, especially with what's going on in the world, we all still need to be wearing our masks. So I'm only agreeing to do book signings if they're close to home. I don't have to travel. And if the masks are, you know, a thing and being outdoors, you know, just to keep myself and all of our people safe. It just feels like the right thing to do. So I have been able to do a handful of those, and that's been great. And then I have been back at just one event, which is this big Renaissance fair in upstate New York. For those of you who are a dork like me and love going to Renaissance fairs.
I love Renaissance fairs, so go for it. Tell us about that. What was that experience like for you?
So the New York Renaissance Fair is my home fair. It's like the fair I used to go to when I was dating my husband, and like it's like just the most dear place to my heart. And so we have Cucina Aurora, my company, we have a booth there. And we sell out olive oils and we sell the books and stuff like that. And if I'm going to be like entirely honest with you, it's the only event that we've booked for the season. You know, I mean, we do everything from like the pagan shows to food shows to craft fairs. And I haven't booked anything because, like you said, it can't do sampling of my product. It doesn't feel like that safe of an environment. You know, we feel like we could be putting our resources into writing books or doing marketing or building a podcast, things like that, that are more, I guess safe is the word I want to use, you know, not necessarily out in the public. But the fair, if they're open, we're open, you know, like we have a booth there, we have a building. And so if they're open, we're open. So we made the decision to go, and I was terrified. You know, leaping into something that should be really familiar, but because of the state of the world is no longer very familiar. I feel like so many of us have had that experience, right? Like trying to re-enter the atmosphere. I often feel like, oh, everything's fine. And then I catch myself, oh no, wait, everything's not fine, right? Like things are not back to normal. You know, you'll see somebody that you want to hug and you're like, oh wait, are you vaccinated? Oh wait, let's not get too close. You know what I mean? So I was really terrified about all the unknown stuff related to how do I, as a business person, you know, do what I normally do, but in a time of COVID, the way I used to do it. And the truth is that you can't. So, yeah, I was really terrified. And then I got there and I was like, oh, everybody's super respectful and everybody's wearing masks, and it doesn't feel exactly the same, but it does still feel like home because of the people and the energy around there. And I have to say that one of the most rewarding things that I have observed in the last few weeks of doing the fair is this is the first time I'm really interacting with the book, with the general public. And I will just stand back in the booth and people will just come in and they seem to be kind of drawn to it. And they come in and they pick it up and they flip through it. And before I even have to say anything, like, oh, that's my book. I'm so proud of my little book baby. They're like, this is a beautiful book and it's calling to me and I need to take it home. And I think, wow, I made that. Like that person just like, they like me. They really like me. Because when you hold a book that someone wrote in your hands, you're really holding their heart and their dreams and their goals. And, you know, I'm sure anybody you talk to about their little book baby is like, this is my child. This is my love. and that's how it feels. So that's been really, really rewarding, to be very honest.
That's awesome. I know exactly. Well, I don't, I'm not with the words. And anybody who listens to this podcast will tell you, I don't know how to make the words word.
It's excellent that you're on a talk show.
Right? I thought it was the best place for me to be. However,
your words are fine.
Thank you. Yeah, no, but I think it's a particular brand of magic that I don't necessarily have. But I'm deeply awed and inspired by people that can write, that can take words and like make people feel feelings with them. Is incredible. So I'm a visual artist though. So
yes,
I understand just working through the process of creation and that thing taking on sort of a life of its own and traveling around and interacting with other people and how that makes you feel, the interactions that they're having, even though, there's a point where it's not your thing anymore. It's its own thing and it's got to live its life. And you're still either so proud or, maybe sometimes very ashamed of your work. I don't know. That might be just me. But yeah, so it's amazing that you are just now getting that opportunity to do that because your book's been out for over a year.
It's just a year. It's just a year. We came out like September 1st last year, 2020.
Okay.
So it's just a year. And, that's, again, like, if you're not in publishing, no one gives a shit if your book has been out for a year. They only care about it like before it's come out or just when it's come out. It's the only time you get attention from media. It's the only time you get attention from magazines or reviews and that sort of thing. Nobody wants to do that after you've been out for a year. I was just trying to, and without getting too much into detail, but I had this other opportunity for some sort of a television type of spot. And I can't really get into it because nothing is solid. Right. So I can't really talk about it.
Okay, fine.
But they were like, well, I was like, here's this book. And they were like, well, it's been out for a year. So, And I was like, but no one's seen it because of COVID.
It's a good book.
Yeah. And they're like, nah, it's been out for a year. So it's not exciting to us anymore.
And it's not exciting because people can get it. It's like people get really excited when they can't have it yet.
Right, exactly. It's that the pre-orders. And what I learned is that to get on the New York Times bestseller list, do you know what the requirement is?
I have no idea.
Right. You have to sell 10,000 books in pre-orders in a week's time. That's how you get on the New York Times bestseller list.
Okay.
Right. So that's why like Oprah comes out with a new book and everybody's like, oh, get Oprah's book. And 10,000 people order it as soon as the announcement is made, and now all of a sudden it's a New York Times bestseller. It's not necessarily
even though nobody's read it yet. Yeah,
correct. So that plays to that excitement of, like you said, it's the pre-order. It's like people standing in line for hours to get the new iPhone. They don't care about last year's model; they care about this year's model. And I think for those of us that have created during COVID. There's so many great books that came out that were in process before COVID that were supposed to be launched at the beginning of COVID. And I think so many of us are having the similar experiences around launching those books and launching those projects, because it's the way you would normally do it. You couldn't do it last year. So we're just starting to do it now. And it is rewarding for sure.
Yeah, I think humans are deeply influenced by novelty, and it's sort of fucked up. And I don't necessarily want to feed that beast, but I have seen that. I have seen that. And one thing that stands out about you for anybody who's ever met you or talked to you or read your book or been in the same room with you, you have an enormous personality.
Oh, like I thought you were gonna say boobs.
That too, but we'll talk about that later.
Enormous.
An enormous,
Oops.
An enormous personality.
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 I will dazzle you with my wits.
There we go. So anyway, but I would feel like when you're sharing your book with people, that would probably just meeting you and talking to you and having sort of that connection moment with you as an author, I feel like would generate a lot of interest in the book itself, which you didn't necessarily get that same opportunity.
Yeah.
And especially as I don't know if you consider this like your first real book that was your baby, that you know what I mean? That kind of diminishes that experience on one level for you. But it also has opened some doors that maybe you would not have explored. And that's what I want to get into now. You mentioned before you have a podcast. We talked about you getting a podcast on your show. So if you want to witness me going, get a podcast, do the thing. That's on our previous episode. I didn't even look to see what episode number that. You know what though? Hold on. Hold please. I can
feel like it's like 46 or something like
46?
I'm probably
we're only
wrong.
on 52 now. Let me look it up.
So
I'm gonna.
I don't know. 26.
I'm gonna do some quick research here.
But yeah, that's you're 100% right, because I think COVID in so many ways has forced us all to look at what's working and what's not working, right? In our businesses, in our lives, in our creative structures, in our witchcraft, and what's working, what's not working. What is it that we can do that we couldn't do before? What is it that we were doing before that maybe we can't do now? And those of us that have survived, you know, with our sanity mostly intact, have figured out how to adapt and how to do things with the time that we have. And you know, again, I have to say, like, super thanks to you for encouraging me to try my hand at doing a podcast, because that's one of the things that, because I wasn't on the road and I wasn't traveling everywhere and you know, doing book tours or going to trade shows, I was able to go, okay, you know, I have a little bit of extra money that I would normally spend on travel. Let me invest in equipment for a podcast. Let's just see if it's something that I'm good at. Let's just see if nobody's gonna fucking listen to this. Like the first series. So what I did was the first couple of episodes, like the first 6 episodes, is literally just my husband and I sitting in the basement talking about all the recipes in the book that we love, that he loves, like what was good, what wasn't good, and all that stuff. It's literally all it was. And I was like, well, we'll just try this. And if it sucks and people don't listen to it, then I won't move forward. And people were listening to it. And I'm getting comments like, oh, you guys are hilarious. Now I want to eat pizza. Like, I was like, holy fuck, people are listening to me and my husband bullshitting in the basement. And I was like, okay. And so then I started, you know, doing this, and inspired by great people like you, inspired by you know, the work that you're doing, and other podcasts like yours, like That Witch Life with Courtney Weber, she was also another person who really encouraged me to do the podcast thing. And what's cool about that is, like, now you have this witchy podcast community, and we're all like, oh, did you interview this person? Did you interview that person? Let's talk about this, and I'll have you on mine and you have me on yours. And it becomes this other level of like networking within the community.
Anyway, hi. So some huge technical issues. Sorry about that.
Minor technical issues.
Huge, mind-blowing. The internet just fell down.
From the sky.
Yes, it was
internet
awful.
It fell out of the sky.
It landed in my yard. It was ridiculous. I had to run wires like the clock tower. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it was crazy. But here we are. We're back. And I don't know what you were talking about.
1.21 gigawatts.
1.21 gigawatts. Yes, we're ready now. So sorry everyone. Apologies. Hopefully, I hope it cuts together in a really crazy and absurd way, so that I'm like, that was ridiculous.
It's gonna cut together. It's gonna cut together great. It's gonna
be beautiful, and he's gonna cut all this stuff out because he thinks it's ridiculous when I talk about stuff that really happens like this. He's like, "Do you want me to cut that out?" No, this is a podcast.
This is what people live for.
This is not a movie.
They want to know that you're a human being. They want to know that shit gets fucked up, so that people who might be new to doing podcasts aren't embarrassed when their shit blows up too.
Yeah, so let's go back to that. We were talking about your podcast, and I don't know what you said because it cut out a little bit for a while there.
You have frozen.
Oh, no. And I can't hear you now.
again.
Crying out loud. Why? Why is it so hard? Can you still hear me? Could you hear me that whole time?
No.
I couldn't hear you either. Let's
So
see what
I have a little thing on my screen that's like uploaded, and then it keeps going 93, 97, 93, 98. It keeps changing.
Yes, that's okay. It's going to bounce around a little bit as it's uploading. So
So I guess I'll just try to like get out all the information as I can, and hope.
Yeah, we're gonna cut it together.
So
podcast.
I start the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, we were talking about the podcast. It's been really cool. It's been really rewarding. Excuse me, I just choked on my own spit.
Oh my God, are you okay? Are you dying?
Yes.
Do you need help?
On my own spit.
I'm on my way.
It has been a really cool experience starting the podcast. And I'm still just a new baby podcaster, so I look to the great Selena for help and guidance because I really I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just having conversations with people, and I've been so lucky and so grateful that I already have this kind of great network of friends that are also in the community. So I'm just calling my friends and I'm like, hey, I started this thing. Do you want to do it? And they're like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And now I'm at the point where I've already interviewed all of my friends.
And now you've got to interview people that you don't know. So look, I'm so impressed because I'm listening to your podcast because I listen to your podcast and I love them. I love the conversations that you're having and all of the guests you're having. I'm like, oh, these are the people that I know, but I'm too scared to ask them to come be on my podcast.
No,
so
you have to ask them.
That's amazing. I know, but I'm scared. So I want to.
Now I don't know half of these people. Some of them, so like I said, the beginning, I knew, I was like, oh, this is my friends. Oh, look, I know this really famous person. We're friends. I'm just going to call him and ask him if he's going to do it,
Yeah.
And but at the same time, you don't want to trade in on the friendship. So I preface it with, listen, don't feel like you have to do this because we're friends. Because we, no pressure. It's okay. In any case, now I'm having to call people I don't know. That don't know me, that we don't have mutual friends, and it's very nerve-wracking. But it's like that with anything. I think creatively, if you're trying to do anything, if you're trying to write a book, or if you're trying to start a podcast, or you're trying to make new friends, it's fucking terrifying to put yourself out there and get someone to say no, because you have a 50-50 chance of somebody being like, no,
I don't want to be on your show. I have had that. Just one time.
And it happens. And that's okay. That's all right. But it is nerve wracking. And then you get the yeses, and the yeses are doubly rewarding.
They're even more terrifying sometimes. I'm like, oh God.
Yeah. Or
am I going to say something stupid?
I don't know this person. What the hell am I going to talk to them about? I'm supposed to be the host.
Right.
I'm supposed to be the host. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't read this person, all of these person's books. I've only read one of them, and I'm like, dude, how does Kelly Clarkson do this?
Oh my gosh. So I'll tell you what I do. I'm not Kelly Clarkson, but if you didn't know that, stop. We don't need to compare ourselves to each other. We're both good. But anyway, that's my first thing is panicked reading all the things. I listen to interviews with other people. If they have their book on an audiobook, I listen to that because it's faster. But yeah, I try to read all of their, I know, but God, how I got to do 2 podcasts a month. I can't read 20 books a month and feed my children. I got to choose one of those things. But it's been wonderful because I have been exposed to authors that maybe I wouldn't have read, or, it kind of gives me, I'm a little ADD. I don't know if you can tell, but it gives me that I need deadlines, firm deadlines. It can't just be whenever you get around to it, that time will be never. That's when that's going to happen.
Yes.
So I need you're recording on this date, so you got to be ready. And then it puts me in the pressure cooker to read these things. And it's been so wonderful because, it gives, I can tell my family, I'm interviewing this. I have to do this for work. And then I'm just I'm loving it. So that's been really a pleasure. And just sitting down and talking to people all over the place that maybe, if I'm seeing them at festivals or I'm seeing them at in workshops and things like that, I don't necessarily have that one-on-one, know, and for me, that's so special and it's so important. And I mean that because, you get to sort of pick their brains and share this moment together.
Yeah.
That, and that's why I love doing the podcast, because I get to have these moments, and then I get to bring these moments to other people and introduce people to authors and creators that maybe they would not have had the opportunity to meet. And I've had so many people message me and be like, oh my gosh, I loved this person that you interviewed. I'd never heard of them before. I just bought all their books. It's great. Yeah. So I was going to ask you, have you had Byron Ballard on your show? Because you record way early. Girl, call her. You're gonna love her. You're gonna love her. Okay. She's like a slice of warm apple pie. You're gonna love her. Like you're gonna love her. And she's got a new book out that just came out this past month. So she's in that. She's making the rounds. I got to get her back on the show. We just had her, so I'm just kind of like, I want her to come back.
I have to agree with you. One of the great joys, I think, of starting something like a podcast, or even if you were going to start a blog or something, especially in this community, we all are so similar and yet so different in our practices and our rituals and, what we consider to be our own personal witchcraft. And to come into a space like this, the first part of it for me is, drawing attention to people and things and books and creators that I think are amazing. And I'm like, okay, I got a platform. Come and stand on my stage and show everybody how awesome you are. That's the first thing, right? Mm-hmm. The second thing is, what can I learn from you? Like having these conversations and learning about people's journeys in their works, in their writings, in their rituals as human beings. Because none of us just popped out and were like, oh, I want to write a witchcraft book. You know what I mean? Like nobody.
I don't know. I think some people do that sometimes. I've read some stuff that I'm just like, did you? No, it's fine.
Right. And so like most of us have these incredible stories of growth and sadness and joy and triumph in our lives that bring us to where we are now. So I think that having a platform like this, it really does allow us to connect, like you said, on a deeper level, that one-on-one, and see the person as a person. Oftentimes, at least in my experience with interviewing authors or artists, I interviewed a musician just the other day, and she's very popular, and she's an incredible musician, but people know her because of her music. They don't know that she's a mom and a wife and a witch and this and that and and her struggles and all those things. So for me, like if I'm watching something, and I love watching behind the scenes stuff of celebrities, for me, the juiciest bits are in the parts where like your favorite celebrity tells an embarrassing story from when they were a kid. And you're like, oh, look, you're a person too. That makes me feel like I can connect on a human level. And I think, especially through COVID, the magic of connection in our craft and in our community has been arrested because we haven't been able to be in person. So these platforms, podcasts, blogs, Instagram, they have helped us maintain those connections in this way to see each other as people and pagans and spirits at the same time.
You're absolutely right. And we had a show prior to COVID. And then during COVID, it was, I don't know, I think everybody's just, the national trauma. We kind of took some breaks. Like everybody had a moment where, I'm having difficulty. I need to take a break from the show. I have, just scheduling and it's just a lot. It's just can be a lot. But I have found that when I do take the time to do the show and to come and sit and share space with somebody, that you still have those connections. You still have those healing moments. You still have, and it's not exactly the same as, sitting across the table and sharing a cup of coffee. But it is a moment of connection. And I always come away from it like, damn, I really needed that. I needed that conversation today. And you don't notice it. You get kind of caught up in everything else. So it is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to create these moments with people. And I love that people from all over, people from, you know, that I couldn't sit down. Like you're
We
way
couldn't
off.
do this. Yes.
You're way off. And yeah, we couldn't. So it's a beautiful thing. And then it's preserved, you know, forever.
Yeah. Yeah. It is though, right? And I'm so grateful for these platforms, and I'm so grateful for the relationships that have now been built because of it. You know, before you and I did the first interview, I came on your show. We met once for like 5 minutes at a ritual.
5 glorious minutes, by the way.
Glorious minutes, you know. And now I feel like we probably chat more. We're more interactive on each other's social media, you know, more than we would have. And you know, I mean, COVID has been a bitch, and the world at large has been a bitch, and we're all suffering collective trauma from the last, I don't know, 4 years, if you really want to get into it. And these are the moments that, like you said, you walk away from this and you go, wow, I really needed that. It's the affirmation of, for me anyway, the path that I'm on, even though so much about my business and my witchcraft has changed because of the circumstances of the world. This is affirming to me, to have a conversation with you, to be interviewing other people, to be talking about the book still, or, you know, what's going on spiritually. Like, it's affirming as a woman, as a business owner, as a witch. It is affirming for me, for sure.
You know, and something that, and I've done this a few times, but you don't have to have a podcast to do that. You know, you don't have to, you can just take a moment and have dates, have a coffee date with somebody that you love that lives on the other side of the country. I have so many people that I love that live on the other side of the country. And it didn't occur to me to do this until COVID. And now, like every month I have a Zoom chat with some of my classmates, and one's in Canada and one's in New Jersey and one's in, you know, Virginia, Maryland area. And, you know, we come together every single month, and I come away with that, from that feeling rejuvenated, and it's important. That's important to do.
We have a Wednesday night, pretty much every Wednesday night. It's been a little rocky the last couple of weeks because I've been so busy. But I have a cousin that lives in Boston, or close to Boston, and I'm not far. I'm like 45 minutes from Boston. But with COVID, we, you know, not allowed, we can't get together, you know, at least not before the vaccines anyway. So at the beginning of COVID, we all decided that we were going to have a weekly dinner. And that has been, you know, transformative to our relationship. We see each other now once a week, you know, and like you said, that never occurred to me before. Like, it never would have occurred to me that you could have a coffee date with somebody via Zoom. And yet here we are doing it all the time. This technology has been available to us, but we haven't had the necessity for it. And now that we have the necessity for it and we've gotten used to it, I feel like we'll still go back to doing things in person, but things like this become so much easier. And for those of us that have loved ones that live far away, it gives us an opportunity to connect. And in the witchcraft community, right, it gives us an opportunity to share ideas, stories, rituals, spells, books, you know, all those things that maybe we wouldn't have done in this way before. So it is kind of a gift, not to be too cheesy.
No, that's not too cheesy. Everybody likes gifts. I don't know who doesn't.
And everybody likes cheese. So,
everyone does. Even those who can't really eat it, love it.
I can't really eat it, and I still fucking love it.
See what I'm saying? So speaking of coffee dates, you have some coffee related news. Look, did you see that segue? I just put them together. Thank you.
That was a brilliant segue. I'm impressed. So it's not like big news, and it's kind of on the DL. But I am developing.
I won't tell anyone.
I am developing a coffee line. So lots of people know that I have a, Cucina Aurora Kitchen Witchery is my company. And we do infused olive oils and risottos, and everything is done with intention, and everything is done with magic and what I like to call spiritual nutrition behind it. And I was looking for something to do, and I was like, every witch I know makes tea. Everybody makes tea. Everybody's got herbs, and everybody's growing herbs, and everybody's making tea, and that's awesome. I love tea. But every witch I know also drinks coffee. Like, the witches I know cannot live without the goddess Caffeina. We have altars to her. We pray to her every morning. So I thought, wouldn't it be great?
She fuels us and sustains us.
Right. Wouldn't it be great to come up with a witchy line of seasonal coffees? And I did work with a local coffee roaster here in New England who does what is called third wave coffee, which for those of you who are not coffee snobs like I am, it is reference to how things are brewed and roasted in Europe. And the idea of third wave is this is the third wave of European influence in coffee coming into America. So I worked with this gentleman who works locally and does third wave coffee, and came together for what kind of beans we wanted to use. And he advised me of what kind of beans to use with the flavors I wanted to do. And then I stood in my little kitchen and ground up all these beans with all of these herbs and spices, and made 4 seasonal flavors as a prototype. And recently got these prototypes out into the world, and everything's being reviewed at the moment. So the feedback so far has been outstanding. Like surprisingly so, I was like, I don't know if this new product line is going to work. I don't know if people are going to like it. Oh my God. And so far the feedback is glowing, to the point where, like, this morning I made a pot of the autumn brew, and, Justin and I drank the whole pot of coffee, and it was freaking delicious. I was like, he came upstairs and there wasn't any left, and he like picked up the thing. And he was like, "Oh," I was like, "Oh, sorry, babe, there's none left." So with that being said, I'm hoping to put this product into full production. I'm hoping by the holidays. Now, I don't know when this episode is going to air, so if you go to my website looking for it, it's not there. It may be there for the holidays. I would tell people to make sure they're following Cucina Aurora on Facebook or on Instagram, and that's where we'll make those announcements. And I would imagine that I'm only going to be making it in small batches, but it does it is pretty great, and I'm really excited to bring it out to the world. And I haven't come out with a new product line for a while, because last year the thing that I was working on was the book. So this year the thing that I'm working on is coffee. So you
I'm
could
really
stay awake
excited
and read the book.
And read the book. Right, exactly. I am very excited about that. So I'm definitely going to be following your website and all of your social media, and I can't wait to try it. We're coffee. You've been seeing me, like, I'm on my second cup. So, it's starting to really kick in now. But
Excellent.
yeah, no, we're very, very big on coffee. My husband has like a coffee subscription service that sends us different flavors of coffee from different places in the world when we run out. I don't know, but look, it has like a little scale that it knows coffee is getting low, and it ships us some more, so we never run out. It's amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know.
That's awesome. We have a subscription like that too. It's Atlas Coffee, and it's like single source origin coffees from all over the world, and every month we get a different package of coffee from a different region of the world, different brew types. It's awesome. We love it.
Yes, I'm enjoying it. So I can't wait to sort of add yours into that mix. And I'm excited for that. And
Thanks.
we, unfortunately, all of our technical issues have pushed us a little over for time. So this episode might be shorter than I like, but I promise you gave me an hour, and I'm not going to not going to take more of your time. But I hope to see new projects, new books, new lines for your company coming out. And all of your links will be in the show notes. And it's been an absolute pleasure and a joy having you on the show, as always.
It is always amazing, Selena, to spend time with you. And I'm going to have you on my show.
Oh, boy.
So we're going to do that at some point in the future, I hope. And we could just continue this conversation over on the Kachina Aurora Kitchen Witchery podcast. And then we'll talk then about this episode and send people back to Crossroads and Cauldrons. And it will just be an entire love fest back and forth. So
I like it.
I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough. You're the best.
Oh, thanks. And look, I did go back and look while my internet was being crazy. Episode 43 of Crossroads and Cauldrons, where we dig into where we meet you, and it's a beautiful moment. So go back. I had met her, but you guys met her. So go watch that again. Give it another listen. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
To everyone who's listening. We've got some more guests coming up if I can get my damn internet under control. I'm sorry, I'm working on it. I promise I'm working on it. But we will have more guests coming up. I have, hopefully, an exciting, it's exciting to me, video to put out for you in a next little while. And we'll see you all next time. Blessed be, everyone.
Blessed be.
Thank you all so much for listening, and don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe through your favorite podcast provider. It helps us get our podcast in front of more listeners just like you. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can leave us a voicemail by clicking the link in the description of this episode, and you can always find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Crossroads and Cauldrons Podcast.